Good evening. A few minutes late, but I've been doing a mad dash to the supermarket to get some bits and thrown some dinner in the oven, which I've left Mike looking after. So I've been dashing around, but here we are now. Deep breath, I have a cup of tea, so we're good to go. So welcome. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK, and on a Thursday at 6 o'clock, as well as on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I come in and we do a little bit of crafting. And I'm just fiddling about with my laptop to make sure that we are there and all is okay. Good evening, Sarah. It felt very warm again this evening. It was seems to have been a little bit cooler today during the day, but this evening seems to have got a bit muggy and warm again, but that's okay. So we're not going to do any mad jogging or anything, just a bit of sedate crafting, so hopefully we shan't get too hot and bothered. So do pop on and say hello. Do share out these videos so that other people can pop on and say hello as well. And what we're going to be doing today is, much as we were on Monday morning, we are going to be playing with the Ride With Me bundle. Now the Ride With Me bundle is this stamp set just here and the dies that go with it, and the dies that go with it create little 3D trucks, which is what we did on Monday morning. We actually created this little 3D truck here with a little box to go in it. Here's one. I've got two riding around somewhere. There's one little truck with its box, and there's another one around as well. So they were the two projects. That was the project that we made on Monday morning. And here's the page in the catalogue with some of the other samples that they have created. So what I've aimed to do this evening is to come up with something a little bit different again. Now I have actually, during the week, if you've been following my Facebook page, following my blog, where I've been very good, I've blogged every day over the last week, so I'm going to try and keep that up. But if you've been watching my blog or watching my Facebook pages and things, you may have seen this card that I did to take part in a colour challenge with the paper players this week. So the colours that they used were blueberry bushel, granny apple green and balmy blue. So I used those three colours to create this card using my Stamparatus to line all these up, and then I used the stamping blends in granny apple green and balmy blue to colour in my white twine, and then I don't know how well you'll pick this up, you can probably see that that's a bit shiny. So the windows, I used some of the fine tip glue pen, and I added some of the fine tip glue to the windows to give them that glassy effect. So that was a card I made in the week. So that's a hi Stella. So that's a project that I've already created, and then today we're going to be doing two different projects. So one is another 3D little truck and one is a card. So let's move this out of the way, and without further ado, let's get started on our card. I'm just thinking that there is one thing that I forgot to pick up to make our card. So let me grab a piece of thick Whisper White card, because we're going to need to make our card base. Try to be a bit organised because there's lots I want to get through, but there was bound to be something I forgot. So let's bring in our trimmer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of A4 card and I'm going to cut it in half, sort of along the long side. So I'm going to cut it at 10.5 centimetres along this way, and then I'm going to swing that round and I'm going to score it at 14.9 to give us a side opening card. Got my bone folder somewhere. And then I'm going to swing this round this way and nudge that up against that top ridge just there, so that we know that that's straight across there. And I'm going to bring this here And then using my bone folder, I'm going to burnish that fold. So we now have a sort of Z shape opening card. Hi Div. Half of Helen. Oh dear, I wish half of me would disappear, Stella. I'm trying very hard to get half of me to disappear. But not quite as drastically as that. Not within a second, just being there, all there 1 minute and gone the next. Right, so the card we're going to actually make is a Christmas card. And I'm just looking around because somewhere I created a little spray station. So here I've got the lid off one of my A4 boxes that I've just laid some kitchen towel in. I'm going to put my card in there, and in my basket of goodies I have a bottle that contains some rubbing alcohol and, hi Maureen, so it contains some rubbing alcohol and a Pacific Point, I'm sure it's Pacific Point that's in there. It was a little while ago that I made it up, but Pacific Point ink refill, so to create this blue spray. So it is very smelly, so if you were here, or if you have smelly vision, it is quite smelly because it is in alcohol. But the thing about the alcohol is it dries much quicker than water, and you don't get quite the same amount of warping as you do if you use water. You can put your ink refills in water and use those to spritz with. It will work. It's just that with the alcohol you get a sort of a quicker dry on it, and as I say, the card doesn't warp quite so much. You get a little bit of a bend on it, but not quite so much, and that is sort of mildly damp, but pretty well dry already. So I have sprayed a nice white piece of card so that it's blue. So I want that to be sort of like almost like a sky effect in the background. And the nice thing about using the sprays is it's not a solid colour. You do sort of get this sort of mild effect. That's the word, isn't it? Right, so let's move my spray tray out of the way because we don't need that anymore. And then I'm going to dig about in my basket, because somewhere in this basket, I can see it, there should be a piece of grey granite cardstock. So here it is. So this again was a full length from an A4 piece of card, and it actually measures 3 centimetres wide. And I've scored it in half. And again, I'm going to bring in my trimmer just so that I've got something to butt that up against. Because again, I'm going to fold that up there, and using my bone folder, you could score it in half, but obviously a piece of A4 card scored in half is 14.9, so scored in half again is sort of 7.55. Which is sort of, you know, not the easiest to find, so it's just as easy just to work out let it sort of do its own thing, find its own level by scoring it like that. So we now have a piece of card, a card base that opens like this, and a piece of grey granite card that opens the same way. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn this completely over, because when we attach this, we're going to attach it that way. So the two still work together, they still fold flat to go into a C6 envelope, but you have this sort of box effect. There was a nice Z fold card. Right, so we have our background, and we have, this is going to be our road for our truck. Now obviously if it's a road, we need some white lines, so I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to take my white stamping chalk marker, and I'm going to draw some lines at the middle of the road. They may not be ever so straight. It may look as if the man that was doing the lines in the middle of the road was having a bit of an off day. There we go. Keep coming. And we have our lines going up the middle of our road. So there's our road and our background. Right, now, as well as the Ride With Me truck set, the other stamp set I'm using for this particular card is the Winter's Wood stamp set, and in particular I'm going to be using this large spruce, pine, fir tree, Christmas tree, whatever you would like to call it, and it seemed very apt to stamp it in the colour shaded spruce. Why wouldn't you? So let's just open up this ink pad, take our tree, and move my road to one side, open up my background. Let's ink up our spruce, and I'm going to stamp one in a solid colour and stamp again to get a slightly lighter shade, so it looks no potholes. Now I could have perhaps sort of, you know, cut a bit out of it, or perhaps I could get my stamping blends out, Stella, and colour a little bit in to make it look like a pothole. Right, so let's come across here. We'll do another couple of trees there, and then we've got up to the fold in our card, so we will try and just get a couple in there, and again ink it up. We'll have a couple in there. So now we have our trees in the background, our road for the front. So now I think we need a truck to go with this, don't we? So let's stand that to one side. Somewhere I have my Simply Chamois. Let's give this a bit of a clean up, only so that I probably don't stick my fingers in it. I was thinking earlier I look very green. When I popped out to Tesco's, I looked at my hands. I actually looked like the Wicked Witch from the Wizard of Oz. Right, so let's just pop that stamp back in this Winterwood stamp set. I do love this selection. It is a really nice collection of trees. Particularly lovely. I love this one with these sort of ghosty like winter trees in the background. So yeah, so that's a really nice stamp set. So we have our trees that we've stamped in the background. Now for our truck, rather than colour him in or paint him, I've brought in a sheet of this DSP. Now this DSP is from the See a Silhouette selection, and it's a lot of papers that look like they've been created with pigment powders, so they are very bright, and you can see it looks as if you've taken your pigment powders and sort of sprinkled them on the background there and painted with them. So they're very bright and bold patterns. They're really fabulous, and I quite liked this red. I thought that was very nice and vibrant and perfect for a Christmassy truck. So I'm going to, let's just shut that green up before I get it everywhere. I'm actually going to stamp this. It doesn't actually matter, although I am going to be using a stamping blend in a moment. In this occasion, the only stamping blend I am going to be using is the black one. So I'm not really too concerned about if my ink and my colour blend into each other, because they're both black. So let's, where should we have him? We'll stamp him just there. Now what I will do is bring in my mat, actually, because this is quite a large stamp and it is a photopolymer one, and it is always good practice just to put your foam mat underneath your stamps when you're stamping with photopolymer. And it is so warm at the moment that you're having to be really quite quick with the Stays On. Don't mess about and think too much, because of course Stays On ink is a solvent based ink, and solvent based inks do evaporate much quicker than water-based inks. So unless you're really quick, you'll find that you've inked your stamp up, you go to stamp it and it's actually dried out. Right, so let's just cut around that slightly and move the rest of that paper to one side. And hello Esther. And then we will fussy cut our little truck. Of course, you could use any paper for your truck that you fancy. You could make it as wild as you fancied. But I did think that these Sea Silhouette papers, with this sort of idea that it looks almost as if I've got out my pigment powders and used them to paint the truck, which I haven't. Decidedly cheated. And I've just stamped it onto a piece of paper. We'll cut all the way around there. So there is our little red truck. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take a craft knife. Hopefully I shall be safe with this. I'm going to move my little laminated mat out of the way because I came to clean it the other day and thought, what is that mark in there? And the mark actually is a cut. I've obviously used a craft knife on top of it, and plastic laminated sheets and craft knives don't necessarily work well together. So I'm just going to use my craft knife and I'm cutting out this window, because I did think that we've got our trees behind and things, and you don't really ever, I don't think, have red windows. You might have blacked out windows. Even that would look a bit sinister, wouldn't it, for a Christmas card? Still a little bit somewhere that's keeping that attached. Possibly need a new blade in my knife. There we go. We'll just take my snips and snip where that is showing as white. That's a bit better. So there we are, we have our truck. So obviously, having taken out the window, we're going to need a window to go into our truck. And this little box back here, I've actually got some little bits of our window sheet. It's almost like you're going to have to trust me that it's there. There we go. There's some of our window sheet, some of our acetate. So I'm just going to cut a little slither of that. And in a minute we will attach that behind our truck to give them a window. So the other thing that we need is I'm going to take another stamp from the Ride With Me. So we've stamped the truck. I'm now going to stamp this rather odd looking stamp just here. And again, I'm going to use that shaded spruce ink. She says confidently, having put it safely away. There's always something, isn't there? Whenever we do a live, there's always something that was there just now and has now disappeared. Let's move that out of the way. And I'm going to stamp two of these very odd looking things. So what they actually are Christmas trees that you can just stamp directly to sit in the back of your truck like that. But there are actually also dies that go with it. I can say I've moved that, now I can't see my acetate, there it is. So there are actually also dies that go with it. So we're going to cut those out in a minute. But before we do that, I'm going to take a blender pen, and I'm sort of almost deliberately going over the edges of this, because when we come to die cutting it, it does leave it with a little bit of a border. So it's just useful that that border is sort of green tree rather than stark white. Now obviously the blender pens are really useful for this sort of dragging out the colour type technique. There we go. So we've got 2 trees. So let's open up our set of dies. And there's our big truck that makes our 3D truck, and this is the die that we want just here to cut out our trees. Let's shut up that ink pad again and bring in my die cutting machine. It is indeed Christmas in July, Esther. The sun is shining. I'm working up. I am glowing beautifully. And that's what it is, isn't it? Pigs sweat, men perspire, ladies glow. Is that right? I am very definitely glowing this evening. So yes, I am glowing beautifully, and we're doing Christmas. Why not? But that's really nice about this stamp set actually, is that you have got a Christmas greeting in it, so you very much can use it for Christmas cards. The big tree is from the Winter... Oh, throwing dies at you. It's from the Winter Woods one. It's this big pine out of the Winter Woods stamp set. It's a lovely tree, isn't it? Let's have one little tree. So obviously these trees are now the same colour, slightly paler because we've used our blender pen on them, but they do give the impression that they've just been cut down from this wood to be taken home and decorated. And there's our second little tree. I'm going to have to attack my plates and clean them up. I've obviously been using a lot of black card, and I do find that if you've been cutting with a lot of black card or stamped images, if you've been die cutting freshly stamped images, you do get black marks on your plates. Every now and then you do need to give them a good scrub, and I think the time is nigh. Right, so let's do a little bit of sticking now. So we are going to just run a little bit of Tombow around the edge of our window and put our window sheet in place. We might need to trim it a little bit. Might leave it to set a second and then come back to that once I've put my trees in place. So then we will do a little bit of Tombow down the bottom there and stick on one tree on our truck. And then we'll put a bit more Tombow on the bottom of this one and stick that one at the back, so it's sort of peeping out. So we've got a truck full of trees. There's my paper snips. Yeah, I was happy that that one carried over, Esther, because it is a lovely set. Right, got a little bit of Tombow on my window. There we are. So we have our little truck with our trees. And last but not least, we're going to need our sentiment. So we've got this sentiment here that says, wishing you loads of Christmas cheer. So I've already got it up on a block just here, and a piece of white card, and I'm also going to need a piece of soft suede card. Let's find our stays on and get ready. She says optimistically with our foam mat that I've obviously put safely to one side. There it is. Do you know, I just think my brain is bemused and befuddled this week. Do you ever have weeks like that? Right, wishing you loads of Christmas cheer. Fabulous. I'm going to take our snips and cut around that. put a little bit of Tombow on the back of that one. And stick it to a piece of soft suede. Is that big enough? Just about. And trim along there. And then I'm going to carry on where I've started cutting that strip, because that was the strip that I cut earlier. And then I'm going to cut that straight up the middle there. And then on the back of here, I'm going to put some Tombow. And I'm going to add these legs to my little road sign. Now, I'm not worried that there's excess glue on there particularly, because in a minute I'm going to be sticking it to my card anyway. We'll put an extra bit of glue in there. This glue is very warm. It's a bit like me. It's very warm. So it's being a bit smushy. Right, so our road is going to come there. So I think we'll put our sign so it's around about there. Wishing you loads of Christmas cheer. And then we're going to need to put some Tombow on here. And then some on the section that's going to stick to that front piece. So we'll line that up with the edge and with the bottom of our card just there. And we'll line that up with the edge and the bottom of our card just there. And we'll just make sure that that's all working together beautifully. So there we are, we have our road on the front, our trees in the background, and our little Christmas sign. So before I finally stick my truck in place, I'm going to take some fine tip glue. So this is the stuff that I used on my windows on the card that I showed you the other day. And both parts of that are coming undone. Let's just make sure we get the top lid off rather than all of it. And then I'm just going to add some little wiggles of glue to my trees. To put a bit of glitter on, because it's never Christmas without a bit of glitter. You could obviously use some of the embossing paste to create some snow. You could use the shimmer paints to blob on some snow, but we're going to make this glittery, and let's run a little bit of glue along the top of our sign, and we're not going to worry if it dribbles down a little bit. Oh, sorry, making you wobble. So I have some of that glitter in a box with a spoon, and I'm just going to scatter that on there. On top of our sign. Obviously not worried about how much I'm putting on at this stage, because we're then going to knock it back into the box. Hi Wendy. And obviously that needs to dry now, that glue. It's at this stage, if there's somewhere that you don't want, you are able to sort of wipe a little bit of it off. So there's our glue in the back, our glue and our glitter in the background, and that will obviously dry. So all that remains is for us to put our little truck in place. And I think he needs to go about there. So we'll just run some Tombow along the bottom edge of our truck. I hope you're all right, Wendy, having a good day. And there's our little truck, and you can see through the window print out the other side. What would be quite fun is if you got a photo of whoever you were sending the card to, and you could sort of, if you could sort of make it small enough, you could even sort of stick a photo of your sort of intended recipient in the window, so they look like they're driving the van. But there we are. So there's the truck, wishing you loads of Christmas cheers. It goes on its way with its load of Christmas trees ready to be decorated, and there's glitter, and because it's Christmas and you need glitter. So that's our first card. I'll tell you what I haven't done. I've just looked in there and realised the one thing that I've not done, but I think we can still do it. So the thing that I haven't done is what I did on my original card, and I have got here's one I made earlier for this one. I did just take the black stamping blend and colour the tyres. Oh, and I remember what else I did as well. See, it's all coming back to me now. You could obviously dig out your dashing deer set, and you could have a deer by the side of the road if you wanted it. Gone quiet now because I'm concentrating on my colouring. So the other thing I did with my wheels is, in my basket somewhere, I have got a little piece of silver foil. So I turned my silver foil over and I took the little tyre stamp from the set, inked it up. Now all I need is the centre of the tyre, so it doesn't matter that these tyres are overlapping, and I'm stamping them on the back because it just is much easier, because it's like a plain card rather than the foil on the back. And then just going to take my snips and cut out those little centre circles. Out of some foil, and that will just give us a nice centre wheel hub on our truck. Obviously, you know, on the back here there's a bit of overlapping and all sorts of things going on, but that doesn't matter. Let me put the top on my stays on because it is so warm, it will soon dry out. And I think I'll just take a couple of glue dots, and if I can find the glue dot, we'll rest our little silver bit on there, pick that up, put that in the middle of our truck, and actually that really does give it a finishing touch, those little silver hubs in the middle there. There we are. Can I put the card to the left? Is that my left or your left, Stella? Is that any better? So there we go. You have your trees in the background, you have your truck, you have your glitter, you have your little greeting made into a roadside sign. So that's that first little card. Let me just pop the top on this glue so that that doesn't dry out, and then I'll bring in our next project. So I'm going to put that to one side while that glitter and things all dries off. And here's the one I made earlier. That's got a lot more glitter on it actually. I was lots more generous with the glitter on my first one than I have been on my second one. Right, so for our next one, I went back to making the little 3D trucks. But this time, whereas before, so the first of the ones I made on Monday, we used them, the shimmery white card, and we watercoloured them to create our trucks. With these ones, I've used my blends, and I've used a little flower stamp, and we have got a really quite psychedelic, funky, flowery little truck that I thought was really rather cute. Thank you, dear. They're really sweet, aren't they? So yeah, so it's really quite sort of a hippie truck, this one. So I've already done quite a bit of this because I obviously made a truck from scratch on Monday. So if you're not sure how to make them up, you could always go back and watch that Facebook Live. And I am being very good at the moment. I'm uploading all of these to my YouTube channel. So if you can't find a video on the Facebook, if it's eluding you, then okay, Esther, I know that feeling. I actually haven't got a workshop tonight. Actually, it's lots to do though. So what I've done, I have cut, using the big die, a truck from Whisper White card, and then just as I have done, just as I did on Monday, I've used all the little stamps from the stamp set. So we've got our side windows, we've got our wheel arches, I've stamped those, we've got our little front grille that we've stamped, we've got our front windscreen and the little windows in the back of the cab. This time I've stamped happy birthday on the number plate bit at the back, and we have our wheels. So I've stamped all of those things already. So there's our windows, the windscreen, the window on the back, we've got our grille on the front, and I've started to colour them in. So I've sort of done half of it, but then I thought I'd show you the second half. So rather than you have to watch me do it all, which I thought might take a little bit of a long time, I've already done half of it. So let's go in and do the other half. I am going to stop for a slurp of tea, just because I think we deserve one at this stage. Right, so here is our little truck, and I'm going to turn him round. Now this flower that I've put onto the truck is actually from the Varied Vases set, and it's just this little flower just here, and I just thought that was perfect. Perfect size for stamping on this little truck. And this time, because I'm going to be using my stamping blends, all of my stamping has been done with Memento, because obviously if I was to do it with StazOn, the colours would go mushy and blur, and that wouldn't be nice. So what we're aiming for is at least 6 flowers on the side here. So one. Bring our mat in just in case. 2. Bring one down here. 3. One up there. 4. 5. And one for luck down there. 6. That's perfect. So we've got 6 flowers down the side there. You've got 3 across the top, 3 across the bonnet, and 6 more on the other side. So that's our little flowers stamped in Memento. And then the colours I've used, so I've got dark Mango Melody here. So let's colour in this first flower. Skip 2 flowers and then colour this flower. And then I've done the centre of the wheels in Mango Melody. And then we'll bring on dark lovely lipstick. Obviously you can do these flowers any colour you fancy. You can do the truck any colour you fancy. In fact, they don't even have to be flowers. You could just go through and see what other little stamps you could find that would work. Or even you could get little punched elements or cut little pieces out of DSP or anything to decorate these trucks. So dark Highland Heather is our final colour. there's our flower. And I'm going to bring back in the dark lovely lipstick because I have actually used that to do the handle on the door. And then I've got some light pool party, and what I've done with that is just around these windows I've just gone round the edge, so I've not coloured it all in, just round the edge to give that edge a bit of definition. And we need to do the same for this back window. Almost feels like there should be a little dog hanging out of this window. So there we go, so that's some pool party. And then we've got some dark smoky slate, and we've used that for the tyres. You'll no doubt have noticed that as I'm colouring all of these, I'm using the sort of chisel tip end of my marker for all of these, because that gives you a little bit more control as to where your colour is going. Hi Shirley. Esther, Scooby-Doo was what I thought this afternoon as well. It is like the what is it? It's the something machine, isn't it? Mystery machine in Scooby-Doo. Yes, that came to me as well. It's just must be an age thing, I think. Although my children watch Scooby-Doo as well. I think they still rerun them, don't they? He is a classic. Right, so now I've got a light Call Me Clover, and the first one that I did, this one I did in Granny Apple Green. So this one is coloured in dark Granny Apple Green. This one is coloured in light Call Me Clover. Now I've got the feeling that my dark Granny Apple Green was starting to get a little bit low. I think I perhaps need to treat myself to a new one. I do use it rather a lot. I use my blends rather a lot, really. So I thought we'd change colour for one that I haven't used quite as much, although it's a very pretty green. Sorry Stella, you're not going to like these green trucks, but obviously you could have trucks in any colour you fancy. It could be blue trucks, pink trucks. Could even have black and white, that might be quite striking. So I'm just working my way round these flowers. You can see now why I didn't leave all of the colouring in till we were live. I thought it probably was enough that you saw a bit of the colouring in. Got the general idea. Now when it comes to the tabs here, I have coloured over onto the tabs a little bit, but I haven't worried about colouring all the tabs. I wanted to make sure that any visible bits are coloured, but most of it will just have glue on it, so won't see it anyway. Oh, I can hear the timer going in the kitchen. Right, let's just, I'll do this back window piece here. And I have already burnished all the score lines on this one as well. Now I am going to go to the other end of my pen, because this back bit just here, because it is all green, you can go over it much quicker. You can use the more sort of wider tip of the brush pen. And just go over it all. And we'll come down this side a bit. Now the other bit that you need to ensure that you colour in, if you're colouring in your trucks rather than using coloured card, is this bit just here. Because if you remember, if you were watching on Monday, this bit here actually shows on the top of the truck. So you're going to want that coloured in as well. So there we have our truck all coloured in. I think I've done all of those pieces. Let's just add a bit of green there. So let's take our glue and just going to need to put some glue on these tabs. And because this glue is so warm, it is coming out quite fast. And one just there. So I think I am going to take a bit of that glue off just there. Okay, right, so let's tuck that tab in, and that is going to stick on our back window as it comes down here. And then this bit here needs to stick to the bottom of the truck just there, and then the rest of that base will just follow on. And then you've got your little bit that sticks up on the side, which is where we've just coloured. And there is a little bit of a blob of colour just there, and that's just the where the stamping blends have bled through the card, which of course alcohol markers always do. So if it's too badly, if it bleeds through too badly, you could always just put a second strip of card across that back, but I don't think that's going to be very visible. And there's a very good chance you'd put some sort of little treat in the back here anyway, so whether it's a little sweet or a little candle or something that could sit in the back there, a miniature cake. Again, we'll stick that down. So that's the back of our truck with our happy birthday going across the back. And then we need to do the front. So let's put a bit more glue on these front tabs. And then, so I will need our front window screen to come down there. And our bonnet to stick across there, and then the front of our truck to come down there. Give that a squeeze, make sure all of that is stuck in place. And there we have our little flowery truck. So the only other thing I've done on here is I've added some wheel arches. So in my basket somewhere, or somewhere around, here we are, I have got the die that cuts out the wheel arches, and 3 arches that I've already cut, and one here that has been stamped. So like I did on Monday, I took both of these wheel arch stamps and put them both on the same block and stamped them at the same time. So obviously you've got one arch going one way and one going the other, because one side of your truck you need it to be facing one way, and the other side of the truck you need it to be facing the other way. So I stamped 2 pairs of the wheel arches, and you obviously get 2 dies. So you get one die that goes one way and one die that goes the other. So I've just got the one die that I need out at the moment. So what I did with these, again, I took that brush end of the stamping blend and I've just gone over the top of it all. And then bring in Have a good evening, Esther. I'm going to bring in our die cutting machine and our die, and we'll die cut that last wheel arch. That out the way. And then we've just got these to stick in place. Now, as I was sticking these in place earlier, I did think they do actually cover up the flowers underneath. So really there's a couple of options. One, you don't need to have them at all. You could leave them off. You could just have the front ones and not the back ones. You could stamp them with flowers and colour them in. Let's turn them around the other way. You could stamp some of the little flowers and fussy cut them out and then raise them up with some dimensionals so that you'd got sort of like more like little 3D flowers on each of those. My concern about stamping flowers on and trying to sort of put them on the top, stamp them and colour them, is that they wouldn't match the flowers underneath. So would that just look a bit odd? Yeah, so I'm undecided on that as to whether that needs a flower on it or not. But that is certainly something that you could, if you were playing around, you could decide whether that's something that you want. So there are our projects for this evening. So we have our Christmas cards, and I've obviously got two because there's one I made earlier and one I've made live with you. And then we have our little trucks. So that's the one that is light Call Me Clover, and this one is dark Granny Apple Green. And those little trucks and things will happily go along with the ones that we made. So here's the ones we made on Monday that were watercoloured with their little boxes to match. And obviously you could make up some more of those little boxes to go with your truck. The sizings for those is on the edited piece of the Monday's live, so you have got all those sizings there. So those are the trucks we made on Monday. And then also, last but not least, is the card that I made to go with that challenge, the Paper Players Challenge. That again, watercoloured, using the colours from that challenge, which were Granny Apple Green, Blueberry Bushel and Balmy Blue. So there is a whole little collection of projects that have been created using that fabulous Ride With Me bundle. So the Ride With Me stamp set and the dies that go with it, including that lovely big die that cuts out those 3D trucks that you can then use for party favours, gift packaging, whatever you like. Lots of lovely things that you can create with those, and lots of lovely ideas for your trucks. And also on Monday's Facebook, in the all about section on there, I did put a link to the German demonstrator who has created some fabulous things with this little 3D box. So do go and have a look. Her blog is in German, but you will be able to see the pictures of all the fabulous things that she's created. And depending on how good your German is, you may even be able to listen in and find out how she did it. But that's it from me for this evening. I hope you enjoyed those little projects and getting into a bit of Christmas crafting. And I will be back bright and early on Monday morning. But do keep watching. Do go and check out my new updated website. Go and check out my blog posts, and do come along and join us if you're somewhere local for some of our lovely classes and things we've got coming up. So do keep an eye on all of those things. So see you very, very soon.